Well, I mean, first of all, thanks again, Neven, for taking the time for this. You attended, what is it, 2 weeks ago, this fancy conference, and we'd love to hear from you about it. Before we talk about the content of that conference, I would be first interested to hear how was the atmosphere at the event, because I mean, most of us haven't had the chance to attend any meetings or any conferences physically, and now this was probably also one of your first in-person meetings after COVID, or towards the end of COVID. And that was right away with the big shots, with Macron, with von der Leyen, with Guterres, and so on. So how was that? How was the feeling? How was the atmosphere at the conference?
Yes. So first of all, Jakob, thanks for this invitation and for the opportunity to talk about a little bit about impressions and also the content of the event. So first of all, yeah, it was for me personally, it was kind of exciting because it was not just like one of the first physical events, but also one of the first opportunities to travel abroad. So I felt like a little bit nervous, like, how does it work, get on a plane and go through airports and all these things. And since the start of the journey, you can sense that things have changed, and so even at the airport you feel that there is already tension in the air, because you need to have a test. Some people don't have a test because they thought they were going home, so they don't need it. So you know what I mean. So it's like, all of even at the early start, you feel that things have changed, in terms of traveling, in terms of the freedom that you had to go. So that's one thing. The other thing, when it comes to the event, I think it was probably also a unique opportunity for people there to get together. And of course, I think the event was heavily influenced by the measures, because you had to have a distance. So instead of us like sitting together and having more opportunities to kind of chat and meet, it was kind of designed in a way that you would sit, and then there is like some blank space, and then another person would sit. So even if you want to start some informal conversation, you would need to go like, hey. And so I think hopefully these things would come back to normal, because I think it takes away a lot of basically the purpose of these events, which is not only being there for the content. Especially, I'm sorry to say so, but especially with these political high-level conferences, where a lot of those is like political declarations, political speeches. So it's not some really highly innovative content. So basically, why the main benefit for you would be to interact, to meet people, which is kind of more difficult now.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully understand that. Now, as for the content of the event, this social summit resulted in the adoption of the so-called Porto Declaration on social issues, which, as far as I understood it, in its essence, puts a strong focus on an inclusive recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. What is meant by that?
I think the main point being made there by the politicians, and as you said, it was a very high-level event, including which gathered all European heads of states, plus European Commission, both president and several commissioners, also president of the European Parliament. Of course, a lot of ministers and the Prime Minister of Portugal as the host country. And my main take from that, and I think if you want to look at it between the lines, I think that what was said there is that the European will not abandon its welfare state model, basically, so that even in these circumstances, even when you're facing economic downfall, even when you're facing a lot of backlashes like these, that basically what makes Europe in a way what makes Europe unique And what makes it even stronger is that it has a very strong social welfare state model, and that not only this will be pursued on a political level and throughout the countries, but this will even be kind of improved and upgraded and kind of let's say aligned with some more more recent or more modern trends when it comes to inclusivity. So for me, I think that was the main kind of a statement, or the most important statement, which is maybe not written that way into declaration, but I think this would be the bottom line conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Now, the fact that you, as in your role as a president of the Euclid network, were invited to this high-level summit, I would consider a sign that the EU leaders acknowledge the relevance also of social entrepreneurship in this inclusive recovery. Now, what do you think is there, and I mean, the high-level politicians' expectation towards social enterprises? So I'm not asking for your opinion on the role of social entrepreneurship, but rather their expectations towards us as an ecosystem, as a field.
Well, if I can kind of widen, the answer a little bit, first of all, to be quite, honest with you, you could see that we, and not only Euclid network, there are also other players in the social economy field. I think it was visible that we are newcomers, to the kind of to the area of where political leaders interact with non-profit organizations, and they interact with non-profit organizations based on the topics or based on the stakeholders that they represent. So either you would have a European Youth Forum, or you would have people representing, I don't know, the SME network, or even the Business Europe. So I think this is the first time basically that some of the social economy or social enterprise actors were at all invited, and I think obviously that is a great and a positive step. But on the other hand, when I say we are newcomers, I still don't think that we are integrated fully into their understanding of policies, and into their understanding why social entrepreneurship is very relevant also to the strategies that the countries have, and the Europe, and to the goals at the end of the day that the European Commission wants to have, that and how social enterprise also not only adds value, but directly contributes to the goals of a more inclusive, and on the other hand also a more competitive Europe. So having said that, I think my understanding, of course, this is only my personal impression, for a very limited, through very limited interaction and listening to various speakers, is that basically they firstly see social enterprise more as a tool to address some other issues, such as inclusion or unemployment, or to tackle or skills development, or youth, or green transition. And I think which to of course it's not wrong preassumption, but my feeling was that it's still not understood that social entrepreneurship itself should be a goal for itself, that we should all strive to kind of make social entrepreneurship not an add-on and not something marginal, but that we should all be kind of looking into making social enterprise, mainstreaming it, and making the European economic model, more based on the principles that we promote as social enterprise organizations, and less on the principles of business as usual. And I think, having said that, I don't want to end on the negative note. I think, this also gives us, a very clear path in what we as social enterprise organization as networks need to do. And I think where we need to advocate, what do we need to advocate for, what messages should we send in advance to the political leaders, and how to kind of promote our cause.
Yeah, towards the last part of your statement, what would be your perspective? How would that differ from the one that you've just outlined that these EU leaders might have? And also, what would be your demands, your expectations towards the EU leadership to foster social entrepreneurship in Europe?
I'm not sure if I get it. What would be the key messages that you think that social enterprise organizations should kind of highlight and send to?
Yeah, we talked now in the previous question, and I think you very clearly elaborated on this, on the perspective that the EU leaders have towards us. Now I'm trying to take our side again, and would love to know, how does that match with what you, as president of Euclid Network, with you being, involved in social entrepreneurship for so many years on a European level. What do you think is the role that we as an ecosystem should play, and how does that connect to their expectations?
Well, I think I think that social entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurship, if as a whatever you want to call it, as a model, as a philosophy, it has a much more transformative power, than it's being recognized. And I truly think that the only way forward, if we really want to have and I'm not speaking about inclusivity, I'm not speaking about tackling bottom of the pyramid, I'm speaking purely about the sustainability of our societies, in the long run. If we want to live in healthy environment, if we really want to see the economy growing, but without putting pressure on the ecosystem, without putting pressure and without endangering some of the people, I think that the principles that we preach within the social enterprise sector are the only way actually to move forward. And I think maybe this is not clear because social enterprise is still seen as something marginal, as something maybe small. But then on the other hand, I think when European politicians think about some of those things, how to ensure that there is a stronger emphasis on clean environment, how to ensure that there is stronger emphasis on, let's say, labor rights. I think they think more to do these things through compliance, So they don't think that, maybe necessarily social entrepreneurship has to do with, putting, various policies out there that would actually make businesses more compliant towards, protecting of the ecosystem, or more compliant towards inclusivity or in the workplace and things like this. Well, I think that it should be the other way around. That it should be in a way that we already work on a model which is sustainable, which is proved to work, which is which cannot be ignored. And I think that this model should kind of be transferred through funding, through also policies at the end of the day, and should be used as a model for the transformation of the European economy based on the principles that we as social entrepreneurs kind of promote. And I think that, of course, I'm very clear that within that sphere of social entrepreneurship, you would have various models, from cooperatives, which are sometimes quite large, to some profitable businesses that would have a strong social impact, but would not be considered social enterprises, by strict definition, to proper social entrepreneurs. But I think, what we kind of, have to be more clear about is that actually, this is the only way forward for both the economy, society, and of course the ecosystems in our countries.
Very clear. Yeah. Now, I would like to focus on one specific element that is especially important to us at SIA, and that is the youth. I have read in one of the statements that Macron made during that summit that he also emphasized the need to support youth, especially now in the recovery. And now you're not only the president of the Euclid network, but also a long-term member of the advisory board of SIA. And I know that you care about the role of youth a lot. So from that perspective, what do you think is specifically the role of young people that are interested in social entrepreneurship or already are active in the field in this effort of an inclusive recovery? And how can also a community and a program like SIA support that?
What I think is that there is definitely much more recognition about why is it very important to work with young people on various levels, then why is it important to support social entrepreneurs, as kind of a separate topic. So, I think that puts SIA in a good position because SIA is, targeting young people directly. And I think, also one thing that adds to what, to SIA missions or is complementary with SIA mission, I think that now there is a common understanding, throughout Europe that, things will have to change. And then, that shift is coming. And so that, everybody's talking about this twin transition, and that, so the economy will need to transit and to become more, so the twin transition more green and more digital on the other hand. And I think, the key challenge there, or the thing that would keep some of them up in the night is that basically they will not be ready for the transition, so that they will not have the knowledge, they will not have the skills, and that basically they will miss the new industrial revolution, if you will. So I think what is very important, and I also think I'm not saying here that social enterprise solves all the problems, but I also think that what we actually do in the social enterprise sector, we actually do create and teach those skills to young people, the skills that are needed for the transition to green, more sustainable. And on the other hand, I think digital economy, maybe not so directly, maybe this is our kind of a soft spot or weak spot, but I think definitely when it comes to green transition, we are already on the front lines. So I think what we would need to see actors like SIA doing is basically working even more strongly in engaging young people, first of all, to understand that what are the implications of the transition, and then actually what you already are doing, I think very successfully, to prepare them mainly in terms of creating skills of young people needed for this economic and social transition.
Fantastic. Very last question. What would be your message to our now around 1,000 alumni ventures across Europe and also beyond Europe, by the way, whose business and impact models obviously were under quite some substantial pressure, or still are till today during the pandemic? Can they be hopeful that EU's leadership will recognize not only the importance of an organization like SIA, a capacity builder, but also, these social entrepreneurs that on the ground are, doing this hard work, even more difficult now due to COVID, and actually work on the green transition, work on the digitalization, work on trying to reduce the negative social effects of the pandemic. What would be your positive and hopefully encouraging message to them when it comes to the developments of those social enterprises in the post-COVID time?
Okay, so it has to be positive. Okay. No, of course. I think, one thing I don't want it to sound unrealistic, and that would, I think that's important. Not to say, things are great, and EU is got you covered, and it will all be okay. But I think that social entrepreneurs throughout Europe should be hopeful, because there is definitely a clear understanding, both among the countries and also at the EU level, that there should be more and more instruments put out there, both in terms of support, in terms of funding, in terms of creation of financial instruments that will support enterprises like theirs, directly, and that would create, I think, additional services and mechanisms for the support of those enterprises directly. On the negative side, I must say, and that as well, that the wheels of European bureaucracy are moving quite slowly. So there might be some time before things happen on the macro level, and from when they're kind of implemented on the local or even national level. But I'm also hopeful there, because this is a time of crisis. And we have seen that, some of the things have been able to kind of, be, fast tracked and push forward in a much more faster and a manner than usual. So, what I think that there are already some policies in place and already some financial instruments in place, from new Green Deal to, to various guarantees. And what I see here is that, there will be only more, and there will, that these would be more comprehensive and kind of even greater. And finally, I think, this also kind of, leaves me with what we need to do, as social enterprise actors, as SIA, as Euclid, as Smart Kolektiv, as all of us. I think we need to push stronger, because my main conclusion, from this meeting is that, you saw that some of the groups, and I'm saying we are all complementary, we'll all preach for a better society. But, you have seen that, some of the stakeholders there were kind of well prepared, are much, have been in the conversation for a much longer time, are, already in the European policies for longer term. So I think, this should be a goal for all of us as actors, to get together, not only through Euclid, but also to partner with other networks and associations out there, and to ensure that our voice is heard, and to ensure that we put positive pressure, so that entrepreneurs that I work with, that you work with, actually get the support that they need in order for a lot of us to achieve this twin transition that the European Union wants.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Neven, for not only taking the time for this interview, but even more for advocating for the field and for the sector in Porto and also beyond that. So super excited about the fact that you could participate there and take a first step. And yes, it's probably just the first step in making sure that our field is recognized on an EU level. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jakob, and take care. Have a nice weekend.